And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, with Psylocks poking each other in butterfly forms. You got some Emmas just seducing each other with their ticklish fingers. And believe it or not, Captain America is in our game once again. Most importantly, though, Wolverine is back. He's taking you in the corner. He's rolling you up against the ram and giving you the no-no. It's a long clip. Welcome back, everybody. We got Avast, we got ZP, we got DarkZero and Envy. This is our NA Challengers for week 14 of Rivals Fight Night. We're approaching a quarter of the year already with our weekly shows. And ZP, we have just been the appetizer. Ignite series is around the corner. People getting pretty excited about that. Virtus Pro, they're off training, boot camp, and getting ready for it. How are our NA teams looking compared to Europe?
I mean, NA is looking better than ever. We have never had this level of parity before that we've been seeing before our eyes. And finally, after a long time trying, we got Magnets in here in Rivals Fight Night, otherwise known by their new name of DarkZero. They just got picked up, so it took a while, but we got them. Finally got them.
All right, talk to me a little bit about DarkZero Avast, because this is going to be our first team up to talk about on our Challengers roster for North America. They're wearing purple. But what names do I need to know coming in?
I mean, this team's been circling around just a bit. I mean, obviously, Hogs, for those that have been around a long time, we're going to know Hogs has been circulating from roster to roster. Chime, actually, a very notorious Overwatch player, now making their way, and not notorious in a bad way, just someone that was known in the very heavily in the tier 2 scene, made a little bit in tier 1, coming on over to here Marvel Rivals. In general, this roster across the board, they've looked solid. They've looked really good. They've been competing kind of like that upper tier 2, trying to break into the tier 1 type of level. I think this is like a good first shot for them in terms of our show to be like, now they're under a new name. Now they've been waiting here a while. We got them in. Let's see how they look pre-Ignite, you know? Let's see how they're taking just overall looking coming to a new meta too. Because remember, we're on a new meta as well with season 2.5. This is some big changes coming across the board. So I think it's kind of a great introduction for this squad that's been so solid, trying to break into the upper level to have their first appearance now.
ZP, they got 3 Vanguards listed. They've got 3 strategists listed. Who do you expect to be in the starting lineup tonight?
You know, in terms of the starting lineup, it's good that you asked that, because I actually got told who is the sub and who is not in this instance. Go back to the handy dandy sheet that I have here. And yeah, so Z-Cube and Bizer, they're subs, everyone else main roster. But the goal here is that with a bigger map pool than ever before, having this depth to your roster can make a difference depending on which map you go to, what pocket heroes people tend to play. You're going to see more and more of this, I feel like, as the game evolves, of teams going, hey, maybe having a deeper roster, not the worst idea in the world, because that's going to allow you to make adjustments from map to map. And the more maps you get, the more heroes can add to the game, the more that depth is going to be really, really useful.
What I most love about this show is every time we get a new team on here, there are new fans. Welcome Surefire, a first-time chatter coming out to watch Bizer. Also, Coach Nat gets a shout out from the chat. But let's talk about Envy. My man Hastro is back in the esports business. He's trying to buy up the best teams around the world in every single game. How did he do with his roster right now in Rivals Fight Night, Avast?
I mean, it's goated. There's no other way to say it. It looks really, really good. I mean, this is going to be a favorite for a roster in North America to just win Ignite in general. Always when they come on to Fight Night recently, we'll be like, oh, this team could definitely win. They won the Gauntlet, obviously, Shroud Gauntlet. So this team is an absolute gigabanger where they've kind of just slowly but surely reinforced every part of this team. And they've always had some very, very strong performers, but now with the addition of like players like Speedily, Kaluge, Window, you know, Nero, they've kind of solidified everything across the board for this squad, and they're firing on all cylinders. And coming into a new patch, I mean, it just gives them more opportunity to kind of flex of like, how flexible is this squad and how able are they to also just swap to a new meta entirely and to a new hero with Ultron arriving.
How often are we going to see NK in the mix, or is it purely going to be Cal and Speedily in the starting lineup tonight, ZP?
I think for the most part, it is going to be just about entirely Cal and Speedily, and it's really interesting to see this roster evolve, where initially the first iterations of Envy that we saw, I mean, most of the players did end up getting dropped. The one player that stayed, Cal. Cal, really, really impressive, particularly in heroes like Hela. But now Cal has tons of help where we don't just talk about Cal anymore. We talk about Speedily when we go to Duelist, and where Speedily has been probably the most consistently impressive Duelist player, arguably in North America, a player that has gotten #1 in basically any hero shooter known to man. Just incredible natural talent on top of all the other pickups that Vast was just talking about there. So, I mean, look, Envy has put together an incredible roster, and I think in my view and many others right now, they may just be the #1 team in North America.
People are asking, how much do esports players like Kaluj get paid? Well, when I met Kaluj, we were over in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He was playing in a $1 million Overwatch tournament while also competing for, I believe it was Marysville University. He was getting free college. He's getting paid to play for a pro team. He's eating free. Kid is doing good. On the Envy side, they're known for taking care of their players, but also high expectations come with this. Avast, expectations going up against DarkZero. Are you expected to 3-1, 3-0 this team?
I would say that it kind of just depends on what DarkZero's current level is going to be here, especially because, like we said, new meta rolling out. In general, especially since Kaluj is making $1 billion a month from the Envy, I think that a minimum $1 billion a month. 3-0 should be kind of expected. I think if you've been following this squad, a 3-0 would not be a very unlikely feat necessarily. But I think really a lot of things have changed with the addition of the new hero Ultron, additionally with the season, with some of the balance changes. So it's kind of up in the air a bit of what is this performance going to look like for this team right now. So it's kind of the best possible time for there to not be a potential 3-0 in the mix going into this.
I like that call out. Let's take a look at our maps as we're going to Hell's Heaven. ZP, what do you think NA does? Who are we perma-banning? Because Magneto was not in our EU matches tonight.
I feel like NA is probably going to copy EU, at least in the very beginning. I don't think NA and EU are actually completely different ecosystems historically and rivals, where, generally speaking, I mean, there's crossover. VP will scrim NA teams and vice versa. So I think if EU comes to the idea that Magneto is just too good not to ban because you don't want to have to play against Magneto when you don't have Magneto, I'm assuming that NA has kind of hit the same conclusion, but I'm willing to be surprised. We'll see.
Yeah, let's get into our bans and protects when the North American players are ready. Tasmo, general manager of Envious, when your players are ready to ban and protect to start off our challengers match here on Rivals Fight Night.
We missed the call outs.
Because North America, like Europe, knows how to play Marvel Rivals. Sometimes they copy Europe. They could copy how Europe gets into the lobby. ZP, you want to take a moment and talk to your players face to face?
You know, if I could get into the room with them right now, I absolutely would. But, you know, look, as far as I know, we got the players just about ready to go. Clearly, there's some, you know, usual NA delay. We haven't heard anything specific, but I'm just assuming a player or two, maybe in the bathroom, but it's okay. We've done it. Our subtle complaining, which really wasn't subtle,
shout out to Tasmo.
Map. Yes.
Thanks, Taz. All right, here we go, baby. DarkZero Envy, game 1. We're using the new ban and protect format. Team 1 is going to get the first 2 bans before their protect. Team 2 gets the protect early. And we saw a whole lot of Magneto banned on both sides. To start things off, we might see an Emma Frost taken out instead of protected.
Okay, and so, you know, there have been changes to a lot of these Vanguards, obviously, in the new season, with Magneto getting a buff and Emma Frost getting, I would say, holistically, maybe a slight nerf. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense there for the Magneto to get the early protect, just because that Magneto is so strong. You talked about it earlier. Currently, with the buffs, Magneto has always been a really, really strong Vanguard. Now, with the newest buffs, I mean, he's even stronger, so it's kind of hard to not try to force Magneto when possible, unless you're really confident in playing some of those less Magneto-centric comps. Especially if you don't have a good Wolverine yourself, because if a Wolverine shows up and you don't have a Magneto, it's not a fun time.
We had some controller player talk in the chat. Shout out to Hashmash123, who says, of course, everyone knows TTK is on the controller for 100 Thieves, but Smash, also a controller player, playing for DarkZero in this one tonight. We take a look at the Emma Frost protect on DarkZero side. Envy, of course, going to have the Magneto protection, so each team is going to have a unique Vanguard going into map number 1. What do we see for the rest of the bans? What is that, ZP?
I'm saying, I'll go back a moment and say, I think Ultron. Envy's been scrimming to you, and DarkZero's not. But yeah, the Ultron band is going to come on in. And look, this is kind of interesting to me because it means either DarkZero is very, very right, or DarkZero is very, very wrong on this early ban. And I don't think there's a lot of in between here. And based on Envy basically having access to the very top scrims in the game at the moment, I feel like we're about to understand why Magneto is always first banned in this map.
Casters finally earning their pay. Don't they know we work for free? Let's take a look at the Luna making it through. The dance floor is wide open. as we're going to see Emma, Luna in the mix. Does that open things up for a Hawkeye? And do you think about that on the other side for Envy? Do you need to make sure that that slowing arrow doesn't come through? No, they're more worried about the sky. No Ultron, no Iron Man.
Yeah, they really don't want to deal with those flyers, especially, I mean, it's interesting too because Ultron I think is a pretty strong pick. Europe, we've been seeing that signal and just from general that Ultron's a pretty strong pick right now. Iron Man did get some changes, both nerfs and removing the team up from Hulk. So I think it's interesting. They're just like, no, we're not going to deal with flyers whatsoever entirely for that. We just want, not all flyers obviously, but with Human Torch being banned, I mean, or not banned, but nerfed so heavily, not quite as much of a pick. So I like it. I like also the Loki Protect. I think this is going to feel like a much more standard, like what we see in season 2 style play that we're going to see for that. While conversely, with Emma Frost protected, no Ultron, maybe something a bit interesting coming out there for Navy Squad.
So chat just wanted a clarification real quick. So yes, your bans and protects only affect the other team or your team. So if you're protecting, you're saving characters for yourself. The bans, the other team cannot use it. So it's a little different from the global ban system that you're used to in matchmaking and all of the previous 13 episodes of Rivals Fight Night. Here we go. It is map number 1. We are in Hell's Heaven. To break down the game action on Play-by-Play, it's the great Tempo ZP on Twitter, and doing the color, it's a Avast_O.
You know, every week we just get a little subtle roasting, and maybe we should relook at our names. I don't think you have a choice here, Avast, because your name is actually directly linked to an antivirus company. So I don't think you're getting at Avast on Twitter, unfortunately.
Probably not. They have already asked me to change it before, but I said no. I said I will not be changing it. It's mine, unfortunately for you. So good luck. I mean, maybe they paid me a lot of money, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, in this case, you would be trying to like pay them to get the @Avast. Like you actually just have to hope for the bankruptcy of the antivirus company. But either way, we're getting into the game here, and yeah, I mean, Avast, I don't know what your take here is, but I feel like Kaluge is going to have a bit of a field day. I don't think the EU read was wrong, but I'm willing to keep an open mind here and see if the Emma priority from DarkZero can actually change things.
I mean, I think the ability to just in general, like, have Luna Snow as well is really valuable right now because Luna Snow still is so powerful, especially with some of the buffs that have been given to her. I mean, she can like dominate low HP heroes currently. So there is a chance that this could be a pretty decent pick. Even with some of the Groot changes, I still think Groot relatively meta right now. Especially the Iron Walls is speedily already taking down Chime.
Yeah, I mean, you just had the Storm Beach Storm off on the side, speedily gonna win that. Get smashed right on after it. Envy, just a very quick fight in the neutral here at best. Nothing too flashy about it, just a better poke.
Yeah, I mean, also having, once again, a Wolverine when there's no Magneto. I think we've called this out multiple times here, and I think it's become even more apparent with some of the bans and how they work currently, where if you can remove like a Magneto pretty early and you have a pocket Wolverine in your pick and the other team might not, I think it's so strong currently. I just think it's like, because there's just currently really nothing to deal with it other than Hulk. Hulk is really realistically the only hero, especially some of the changes to the thing, that can kind of deal with some of the power of the Wolverine.
The other thing I point out too is that when you talk about shield ability, generally speaking, you're gonna get more effective shielding from the Magneto than you do on the Emma. So you talk about this neutral poke here, you also just have more durability from the Envy side, and oh my goodness, they are pushing DarkZero just about back to spawn. This is bullying that we're seeing. I mean,
touch the spawn doors challenge. It's nearly complete. They're almost there. They're still catching them on the wall. ZQ gonna go down, and right now for DarkZero, they just need to try to make it out of the spawn doors here. They didn't commit any ults, luckily, so it's been a relatively inexpensive fight, but at the cost of a lot more bank. And look at that, another leap. So Smash gonna go down there, getting found by Cal.
I mean, Kaluge may have just grabbed the belt and is making eye contact with Delina right now, just saying, you know, yeah, we're coming for you next, 100 Thieves, because this is maybe the most brutal first round we have seen in a domination map so far. I mean, we'll see if DarkZero can bring it back around. The ult bank is certainly charged up and ready to go, but this has been just a neutral masterclass.
Okay, they're going to commit the Omega Hurricane there, but Cyber already down. So they're going to be losing that tank. They're going to have the Strength of Prison too. It's kind of a mess here, but I think Cal just going to clean them up with the last stand. And this is, again, ZP, the Wolverine. The whole time, they're worried about Cal in the backline because they don't have bubbles. They're worried. Also, last stand in general, when you don't have bubbles, you can take them completely out of your strategist ults there. Exactly what happens. And DarkZero now needs to touch the point.
We've never seen this part of the map on broadcast. Ever.
Not repeatedly. I mean, maybe get a glimpse of it, maybe from like the hills, the landscape, but not this far so repeatedly.
Never seen the Hell's Heaven sky on broadcast. You know, in your own pub games, yes, but I mean, that was brutal. That I mean, honestly, I'm not even sure we're gonna get banned off Twitch for that one. That might have broken some guidelines.
Yeah, I really think ZP, it's one of those things where over and over again, when I've seen Wolverine, if you have a pocket Wolverine pick, get it played into a team that doesn't have Magneto, it's true sadness. It's always just true sadness, because there hasn't really been any adjustments to Wolverine recently, obviously, like especially with the 2.5 patch that came out. He's still incredibly strong. Just such a tanky overall duelist pick, and such a strong ability to just chunk down targets of all sorts, but in particular those vanguards. And I just think that it's really hard to play into this, right? And you're ideally hoping like, oh, maybe with the Luna Snow we get some extra bonus health from the cryo freeze. You get some ability to potentially, or from the absolute zero, you get some more damage. Like maybe you can poke him out a bit more, but it's tough. It's very, very tough to do so, and I think you're seeing the lack of Magneto there. And I think, you know, look at Z-Cube's already gone to the Hulk now, just to hope to get the indestructible guard to get more shielding, more peel for the rest of his team.
Yeah, I think the swap's coming out from DarkZero smart here, and I also, again, I just think that Envy might be a little bit richer in scrim bucks, having basically the absolute best to scrim against in both EU and NA. I think, you know, they might just have the better read on here, but DarkZero, we'll see how quick of a learner this team may be. Up here, though, on next point, and the neutral game continues to remain ridiculous for Envy. Early pickoff by Speedily, and we're going back to the spawn doors, maybe.
Oh, boy. I mean, right now, I think also when you deal with just the strength of how strong every member of Envy is in terms of pumping out damage, because you see Speedily just continue to farm here on the Storm, I do think overall, like, this is hard. It's going to be a hard fight. You've lost the first cap here for DarkZero, so you have to recontest into the Groot walls, into all the Goddess boosts that are going to be occurring, just pumping AoE damage there with the Aura of Thunder. So now DarkZero have a very, very hard task. Hopefully try to take the high ground.
Speedily right now, gonna open up here. Omega Hurricane off into the back line, looking for the strategist, putting down the pressure into the back, gonna force retreat here out of DarkZero. Chime getting very low at the same time. Gibbery going down, and it just continues to snowball against DarkZero.
Wait, no, they did get a back cap. I mean, that was a back cap. Z-Cube goes to the back, gets the back cap. I like the idea here. It at least gives them a little bit more breathing room, because sure, they get a stagger, but they get some cap time percentage. They don't lose more bank. So it gives DarkZero a bit more time to breathe, but you still have to recontest here into the point. A lot of pressure is going towards like Smash, hoping you can get some extra value here from the, sure, admittedly nerfed team up with the Lunas, with rather the Emma Frost, but trying to find some more value here into the back to force a little bit of the damage away from the chokes.
Well, DarkZero, they got resources coming into this fight. Envy, though, they decided they want to take the fight to them. Open up here with the C&D ult. A little bit of Eternal Bond. Smash gets caught, trying to flank from the back. Envy, already up one. Meteor M coming in from Kaluge. Looking for a target, not going to find it. Meanwhile, back on the point, Chime. I'm alone here, has to drop the bubble. Oh boy, that's a rude awakening coming out of the bubble. Wolverine out of nowhere. And it just continually, I mean, DarkZero get a kill challenge at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I see the ideas, right? They're sending Smash or sending Chime, trying to break open these spaces a bit, but their team is just getting constantly collapsed here on the choke, especially with the Groot walls available, because even with some of the nerfs to Groot, he's still really good at controlling the chokes. They are going to have some ults available. They're going to have the Sonic Seduction. They're going to have the Dance of the Butterfly, so they have some options here. The Hulk Smash as well. So DarkZero coming on in here, but remember, they have to be worried about this Strangling Prison. Window hits one good Strangling Prison, finds one, finds two, and the fight is almost immediately over, barring a pick for DarkZero.
Well, they're gonna come in here with the Sonic Seduction. They lose Z-Cube, though.
Z-Cube! Oh, no! Off the map! Via the I think that was the Sonic Seduction catches Z-Cube, and he goes off the map.
Oh, boy. That was brutal. Generally speaking, even for the Challenger match, we've not seen such decisiveness, and here's the thing about this. DarkZero is a good team, objectively, in what they've done historically.
Speedily died 0 times, ZP.
Yeah.
Sorry, keep going.
Envy also may just be that good. I mean, only 2 final blows for all of DarkZero, and both of them were Z-Cube.
I mean, also considering the fact that, I mean, yeah, it's just, it's tough. There's no other way to put it. This was a beatdown. It was a beatdown here. I think DarkZero lost in the draft phase a little bit. It's going to be hard no matter what, just because Envy, like you said, a world-class team. DarkZero currently fighting to be like a really good team in North America in terms of like that top tier 1 level, right? Like this is their proving grounds to a degree. So it's going to be an uphill climb the entire time. I do think when we look at the draft phase. You just can't let that happen again. You can't have you can't lose Magneto when you know Cal's gonna have the pocket pick for the Wolverine.
Yeah, wild combo. First time we've seen on the night that it wasn't a mirror with the Vanguard bands, and this is the impact. Some of these compositions are a little stronger than others. You look at that first game, if you're DarkZero, was it purely the bans and protects? Is there something we can work on in-game, ZP?
Honestly, I'm willing to chalk up a lot of this to bans and protects. I think Envy just having a way healthier scrimbuck exchange coming into this game, because we saw throughout all VU, it was first ban Magneto without question. And we go into here and we go, okay, maybe there is a question where you decide to go for Emma and you say, we don't need Magneto. Upon reviewing the evidence, you might just need Magneto, or at the very least, don't let your opponent get them in this meta, because this was a very strong proof of concept.
Now, we've seen a lot of Ultron. This is the first time that we've had a lot of Storm footage. What does she bring to the table right now, Avast? Because Storm was not seen very often throughout the first 13 weeks of Fight Night.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's grown in popularity over time, and I think a lot of teams have recognized that she brings just so much value as a flyer in terms of you get the overall boost, right? You get movement boost, you get damage boost, you get AoE. Especially her ult has been really, really good at targeting the backlines because you can remove ults really strategically. She gets the bonus health. And now with all the extra team ups you get with, like, you know, you can have the Sharknado if you want, which, you know, sometimes, especially I think with some of the changes, Jeff isn't always going to be played, but that's an option, right? Overall, Storm gives a lot more flexibility, a lot more just overall team value, I would say, compared to many other flyers outside of like what was when Human Torch was really, really strong. You just pumped out damage, right? So I do think that's where Storm still stands as like a very, very good option. Is she's holistically great and she gives you a ton of extra team value with her auras.
Popping her ult at the end of a strategist ult is maybe the most dopamine inducing action you can do in the game. I did it twice last night. I'm so proud of myself with the 6K. ZP, we're going to Spider Islands. Not many 6Ks seen on this map. Are we going to see the map completed? Earlier, we got to about 2.75 points in the EU matchup.
I think if Envy is on the attack, yeah, I think we will, based on map 1. Look, I still think DarkZero will bounce back and put on a decent showing, but they got completely skill gapped in map 1 and draft gapped. So realistically speaking, they have a long way to like climb to get to the point where it'll be like, okay, this next match will be closer. I will say it'll be a little bit telling for Envy if they decide, actually, we want to defend first, because to me, that's kind of saying, actually, we want to go for the speed run because we'll first point hold you and then quick cap thereafter. So
make your money fast.
We'll see. Yeah.
All right. Let's see how confident they are. Do the Sharknado. Everybody wants to see the Sharknado. It's pretty fun, guys. That, of course, is the Jeff the Landshark and Storm team up now in season 3 of Rivals. About to be jumping in to our bans and protects, and I gotta say, NA, a little bit lopsided early, but it should even out, right? This is the region where we go to game 5. Reverse sweeps and shit happen here. Avast, DarkZero's got to have a little bit of potential in this squad.
They could. They definitely could. I think also you have to remember that in Fight Night we're trying to, you know, show off a variety of talent from every region to a degree, and North America has a lot of teams and a lot of talent comparatively. And I do, not that Europe doesn't lacks talent, it's more than North America, just so many orgs, right? There's so many squads in North America. So sometimes the challenger match, we're going to have a bit larger of a spread, but the, you know, champion match is going to be typically one where it's going to be a gigabanger across the board. But right now it's just a question of, okay, we've seen what DarkZero banned before. Are they going to now try to remove a Magneto, or maybe even protect a Magneto later on? And already, I mean, okay, they're saying we don't want to deal, we're removing a Magneto pretty early, and then Envy conversely banning Emma and protecting Emma, or I have
they can still, they're gonna go Emma. Okay,
yeah,
double check here, production. Is Emma Frost being protected by Envy? Because that would be a flip from game number 1.
Yes,
I feel like it is DarkZero doing the Emma ban protect. I would be shocked if Envy just swap things up here, unless it was like some sort of move to flex and say, actually, the bans don't matter.
Ultron's
we can do what we did
early.
Regardless.
Nah.
Well, I mean, it is blue, right? Because we have, but it's blue. It's color coordinated, correct? Unless our UI is messed up. It's blue team is DarkZero, red. Envy's red. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So we're good. So it's right. Envy's bottom,
Okay.
DarkZero's top. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, this is relatively interesting. I think it's the right play for DarkZero to finally make sure that you can protect the Magneto here, because you know that you have to worry about the Cal pocket pick. And also, I think removing Ultron, if you're not comfortable with Ultron currently, is also a relatively smart move across the board.
Yeah, he brings a lot of chaos. That burst damage is really kind of unpredictable at times. You're like, holy shit, I just died real fast. Here we go. Loki on one side, Storm on the other for DarkZero. They say speedily, we've had enough of you, sir.
Yeah,
A respect band coming in.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, especially given how strong Storm can be on this map. Any map where you have rooftops and more room for flyers to work on. Look, you don't even have the biggest flyer clearance back on Domination in Hell's Heaven, and they made it work, let alone going to a map like this. But on the same note, DarkZero signaling, hey, we still want to play some flyers of our own, including Iron Man. So we'll see what Envy goes with their final ban here. I kind of feel like they may mirror the Storm ban, so they don't have to play against Storm without having Storm of their own. We'll see.
Do you do Magneto Hulk for the Iron Man team up, or does Iron Man not need that Avast because Ultron isn't there?
No, I mean, it's Ultron, Iron Man gets a team up, but they removed that team up entirely.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no, yeah, they removed that team up entirely, so there is not going to be, that's not going to be available at all. So it's not something you have to worry about. It's really just Namor Hulk that still has that team up. Obviously, with Doctor Strange, don't have anymore. Okay, so it's going to be a Loki Protect as well for Envy, which typically they really like to play the Loki they've had. And I also like removing the Invisible Woman. And the reason for that is that if you're worried about flyers, removing that ability from DarkZero is, she's a pretty good flyer enabler along with Luna Snow there. So I do think, but I mean, obviously looking at this right now, Luna Snow is still available for these squads. So could see a lot of Luna Snow being played potentially, especially for DarkZero. And I really do like the Invisible Woman pick. Wait. Oh, sorry. I'm used to the UI. I was getting confused for a second. Yes.
Oof,
so I like these bits. Yeah, we're good. We're good. Getting used to the UI. We've swapped UIs so often and we swap ban systems so often that sometimes I'm like, wait a minute. Am I wrong? Is my brain going crazy here?
I did not know there was a wheel on Spider Islands filling up with water, which means this game is charging up. Welcome to Spider Islands with ZP and Avast.
You know, Vast, it's so far into the future that I feel like that's just decorative at that point. There's no way they actually need power from that wheel. Doesn't make any sense to me.
I mean, you never know. I mean, it's just theoretically, if they're very far into the future, if hydro power is the most efficient for them in this moment, maybe they also, because what if they've like invented a better like
they're
gear
still using
system?
lanterns. I don't believe in it.
Well, maybe they're LED.
Yeah,
It could be
I
LED
think they're
lanterns.
LED.
Yeah, they could be just like or permanent fusion lanterns that are, they last a million years.
Yes,
you could
the
improve the
permafuse.
you could improve the gears, the wires, so you lose less energy, right? There's all sorts of nerdy electrical engineering things that could have occurred in the future.
Well, we're getting into the game. And it's going to be Envy here on the defense. So that much ends up, or no, sorry, Envy on the attack. So they're not going to go for the ultra quick speed run. Instead, we'll get to see if they can do the full complete here on Spider Islands. Cal busting out the Hawkeye, an old favorite, hitting some heads at the beginning here of Vast, and we'll see if the Envy neutral game can remain as strong as it was back on map 1.
And with the changes to Hawkeye, Hawkeye's looking really strong currently with all the buffs to the arrows and also the focus. Speedily getting to the back line, looking to pressure the back as Chime gonna find window, and already, like I said, the flyer's out for Chime on the Iron Man, and they have Gibbery here just to ensure that they can pocket with the Idol or with the Snowflake. As Envy looking to make some extra space, but not making too much progress so far.
Already a vastly better opening to the game for DarkZero than the entirety of the last map, so their prep here paying off. Chime able to punish speedily in the back. Luge though, taking on Cyber. So Envy not fully out of it, at least fighting a little bit back and forth here. Respawn advantage going to be in their favor in just a moment as Kluge just starts walking forward.
And even with these changes to Emma for us, I mean, she still does a lot of damage currently. Blues trying to take control here, looking for more. Gonna hit the kick in, just trying to buy Gibbery, not quite able to find it.
Yeah, closer than expected. Strangling the prison though. Gonna be coming on out here. Z-Cube looking for the follow through. Smash right on there at the Kraken impact. So DarkZero looking reinvigorated. Just a change of pace here, Vast. All they needed.
Yeah, and I really like this swap here because I think the swaps are pretty decent. You pocket ban, just making sure like, okay, speedily, you're not gonna get to play Storm. We don't have to worry about the Ultron and his even team up. We don't have to worry about the Wolverine. We don't have to worry about Magneto, and we have Magneto. and we can just pocket Chime, right? Because so much of this is based around like keeping Chime in control here with the aura, with that snowflake. And Envy looking to make a little space here with the Dance of Butterfly.
Dance of Butterfly comes in, but Window already goes down. Pulse Cannon in reserve right now for Chime to put this one away. Has to respect Collusion, the potential shield, but I think Chime's gonna have a moment of opportunity here in a second. Psionic Seduction is down. Speedily, still working to the back, looking for an opportunity. Chime, again, up close and personal. Not much into the sky at all, but now, up, over, Pulse Cannon, shoots, fires, connects, takes down Cow. Big pickoff into the back line. Window back into the fray now, though. Liberty Rush. Gonna try and make something here happen for Envy. DarkZero, though, up one, dropping the Luna Dance. And Cyber maybe about to throw down this Meteor M with DarkZero still at an advantage.
Yeah, there's going to be the worlds invested there from Nero. So Cyber going to pop the Meteor M, looking to burn one. Maybe just going to be Nero, because remember, there's no bubbles. Nero down, but during this time, Envy into the backline, finding multiple picks.
Yeah, Speedily, kind of untouched right now in the back, being a complete menace, looking for the Bucky. Gonna get with the aid of Cal. Cal actually going wild from the other side. And now Speedily looking to finish off Magneto. Goes for the health pack first, jumps up and over, gets the finish, and this will be 0.1 to Envy.
And I mean, Chime goes to the Doctor Strange. They want to contest, but not quite there in time. So unfortunately, not going to have the portal. I doubt they're going to stay on the triple Vanguard. Yeah, they're going to swap as Shibuya goes down a little late. And you just see the difference here again, where Envy, they're down players. They lose a strategist. And even with that, the backline dive so aggressive from Envy, just getting those picks, getting the limbs that they need, and just waiting long enough for Cal to make it back. And I think that's just one of those differences that we talked about, ZP, where it's not just about the comps. It's not just about how you're, but it's also just about your pure like individual skill and like the team up tier for these teams. And Envy just has it in spades.
Speedily drops cloak, up, over, Dance of the Butterfly. Opening hit and gets the pick with the aid of Cal. Gibbery going down. And with both strategists out of the fight, the rest of it's just going to be free.
Pretty fast fight there for Envy, only having to use one ult, which is great. DarkZero didn't commit anything either, but I mean, not that they had too much to commit. No strategist ults available for them currently. They are going to have the Strength in Prison potentially to force something out, but the problem here is that, okay, great, we potentially get the combo with the Crack and Impact Strangling Prison, but you still have to deal with all the aggression that Envy's going to have, plus the strategist ult.
Yeah, I mean, either way, it's what they have to go for. They lose Cyber immediately. Now do you invest this down, Heroes? No, you've already lost your group. It's actually just over before it even begins. And Envy, just so good in the series so far, Vast, about getting free picks in the neutral over and over again, which, needless to say, very healthy for their ult economy.
I mean, there's nothing to invest. The principal is gone. It's gone. There's no principal left. We've lost all the money. The money's gone. We've lost the house, Papa. It's over. And I do think right now for DarkZero, they're just struggling to get themselves back into the fights here. The aggression is so strong from Envy. Now, the bank is going to be great here. No, we've done a little FDIC securities. We're okay now. We have a little bit more ult economy. It's time.
Here we go. Chime in the back. Pulse Cannon ready. Crack and Impact comes on in after the Strangling Prison. Kaluj out of the fight early. Now, if you're Chime, you kind of want to save the Pulse Cannon here. Ideally, you don't use it when Envy is down too, but you lose your Cloak and Dagger, Windows threatening, and you feel like, yep, I gotta let it fly. Takes down 3. But in a way, Avast, it's kind of a win for Envy. I really think DarkZero wanted to save that.
I think it's a big win for Envy. And I think, honestly, DarkZero felt pressured to pop that because Skier goes down. They weren't able to save Skier just in time before the Fate of the World gets used. So now Envy, with sort of that pressure, gets a lot of ults, pretty much every ult out of DarkZero. They're worried about another Crack and Impact, but they're going to have the Sonic Seduction. They're close to a Strangling Prison, so they have some big ults when there's nothing strategist available for DarkZero. So for DarkZero, you know, they want to buy some time. They want to try to maybe get this Crack and Impact up in time before strategist ults are up for Envy and commit with that.
They're very drained right now, and if Kaluj knows that, yeah, he's just gonna go Psionic Seduction super early here. Group walls are gonna come out, but they're gonna gain space from this. Look at the amount of positioning Envy is gaining off the Seduction, and the fall through is still there. ZQ wasn't quite able to get away, so now you're up 1. The Vanguard presence for DarkZero super pummeled, and Envy's taking the rest of the space. They're just going straight up the ramp.
And there's a Strangling Prison, committed, use, Chime, gonna go down. You see Cyber so split. I think this is likely gonna be the cap here, ZP. I mean, the spawns are bad, they don't have the ults.
Oh, smash. Dying mid-Crack and Impact, doesn't even get anything from it. And Envy, just masters of turning one elimination into a full team wipe at the end. And I'll just go back to that previous fight where DarkZero, they invested a few ults, it was looking good, they got 2 pickoffs, and they lose one of Ast, and they go, okay, I guess we actually need to throw in the Pulse Cannon on top of it, and just left them with nothing for that fight.
Yeah, overall, I mean, it's just been an economy masterclass, and you just look here at the scoreboard overall, much better for DarkZero. I mean, they have more than 2 final blows. You see multiple people actually with multiple limbs, and I think when you look at Envy, you're like, wow, like these are pretty good numbers. The most telling numbers to me, realistically, are the Vanguards here. You look at Speedly's damage and you look at the limbs, like, oh, that's pretty good. But when you see the damage that Window and Kaluge are pumping up, along with getting like very solid final hits, this is big for them, because I do think that when you see just how Window's isolating players, when Kaluge is following up and pumping out a lot of that damage, this is something when we talk about some of the best teams like Virtus Pro in Europe. It's Vanguards also being extremely big damage dealers and limb finders, and getting those final hits, just putting a ton of extra pressure where they're almost acting as just large duelists.
Everyone on your team has to contribute if you want to be a #1 team in this game. You can't have any weak links and just be like, oh yeah, I know our Vanguard, he's pretty good at shielding, or our strategist, we picked up the no damage Rocket Raccoon from the ladder, you know, very popular player, really focused on healing. It's like, no, actually, you need players that min-max every aspect of the characters they're playing, and certainly Envy has been in that class. But here we go. It's now going to be DarkZero on the attack. They need to full complete the map. Envy, meanwhile, looking to hold them here on the first point.
So Cal just gonna be putting out this poke here. A little bit of splash damage with the arrows, building up the focus, looking for headshots. And for DarkZero, when they're playing this flyer comp with the Magneto, they're gonna be trying to just take some extra space here on the flanks, but not really able to take a lot of space if you're down a strategist.
Great angle from Callan. Also, I'm just having flashbacks, a little bit of deja vu. Why would you bring Envy to this map anyways, when they've literally won the Shroud Gauntlet and a Rivals Fight Night by first holding 100 Thieves on this map, on this point? I feel like you don't actually want to bring Envy to this map, because in fact, they're quite good at it.
Maybe DarkZero has a plan that we're not aware of. Just, you know, they have designs you couldn't even begin to understand, okay?
Well, we'll see. Envy's defense, though, historically very, very good on this point in particular. Fate of both worlds up here from Narrow. Envy just forcing DarkZero almost nearly back into the spawn doors again. And it's going to be Month here with the Clone Luna ult. Just letting Envy move forward, take a little bit more space. They take down Z-Cube first. And once they get one pick off of Fast, they just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, we're losing the Vanguard too, especially the group. You don't have the counter walls. You lose, like, obviously a lot of that pressure, the ability to just force potential isolation as well. And Chime on the Iron Man right now is currently just sitting there like, okay guys, I'm shooting my pellets, but no one's really going down.
Oh, speedily off the Dance of the Butterfly fall through all around. DarkZero cleaned up once more, and you take a look at the time. They are down 2 minutes right now, Vest. Half the time bank just gone.
And they need to make something happen. I mean, they just in general, not because, okay, I heard the cold one crack on open.
That was not me.
The cold one crack on open there from maybe Puckett just watching this, but I do think for DarkZero, they need Chime to make some space. They need to put something here to just force a fight elsewhere away from the choke, because there's currently their Vanguards are getting crushed, they're getting run over. They need the flyer to make something just somewhere.
Well, that was definitely me cracking a cold one, guys.
Of course it was. Cyber off the Meteor M, able to get down Kaluge. Hawkeye ult, putting Chime a bit under pressure. Going round and round, pulse cannon, ready to go. Point blank, looking for the opportunity over the group walls. Looking, waiting, up and over. Chime, get a master here of the train, into the backline, nearly gets the Loki, and finishes off Month. Not quite able to get away, looking for a little bit more. DarkZero, a little bit of life in them here, and now.
Wait, but they lost 2 players. 2 players just went down there late, speedily in the backline, and that's huge, because now DarkZero, they're still trying to find these players. They don't know where they're at. They're going to be worried about that aggression, about that pressure in the backline. So they're down a strategist, they're down Smash, and Envy can just recontest.
Yeah, Kaluge, and Kaluge keeps using Sonic Seduction, not even for necessarily early pickoffs, but in situations to buy time for positioning. It actually,
honestly, I don't even think that was totally necessary in that moment, ZP. I'm going to be real. I don't think it was totally necessary, but I agree with your overall take. Your take.
Just wanted to push the button, baby. Speedily, though, it's a backline. Dance to the Butterfly. How good is this one going to be? Trying to min-max the damage. Just one target, ends up not getting much at all, but forces out the Eternal Bond, so that's actually a pretty worthwhile trade. Speedily, though, getting the aggro of Iron Man. Gonna go back here, grab the health pack. Huge distractions. The backline decides enough's enough, goes to rejoin his team. Envy, close to the end here. Only 22 seconds left to defend. Z-Cube in real danger, goes down. Window able to punch him after the strangling prison. 2 down right now for DarkZero, and they are running out of time fast. Gonna have to look for a last second portal.
I mean, I don't even think it's going to be possible. Also, ZP, just to add a little insult to injury, I think Z Cube went for the Strangling Prison, got interrupted out of it. I heard the freeze. Wait, the freeze stops. I don't think they would even hit it anyways, but that is actually insanity. I don't think but like Groot got interrupted, Z-Cube got interrupted there. So there's just multiple moments of this kind of humiliation that occurred for DarkZero. I'm not gonna lie, with the freeze, with the Groot interrupter, Z-Cube. I mean, it's just Envy, this team. They are so good across the board. And I think DarkZero just struggling, especially when you're playing this flyer composition against so much aggression from Envy there. You need to be just having more happen. You need to be taking some of the pressure from the front line, and just never occurred.
Also, chat is saying that Pucko is actually showing respect in the middle of the game and pouring one out for DarkZero on the first
so much.
point.
Yes.
You know what? I mean, honestly, you might have to do it. Might have to pour open a 40, open it up, and pour it down to the ground for them too.
Poor lads. At least they can go to bed early tonight as things are shaping up in Envy's favor. We take a look at some of the highlights from this game in number 2. And Avast, is it misplays or outplays that are occurring right now?
Probably a bit of both. I would say mostly the outplaying, but typically when you get outplayed, then you're going to also misplay because you're just simply slower in terms of just your overall, like what you're putting out there, how coordinated you guys are. I think the DarkZero team, this is a team that obviously has been around for a bit and it's been pretty good at the level, but this is like the next step up. You know, you're graduating, okay? You're not, there's no longer, we're going from middle school to high school, like varsity sports essentially. And we're doing from the kid that was like 13 years old, you know, barely able to dribble the ball, to now they can dunk and you're getting dunked on repeatedly.
It's kind of rude. Well put there. ZP, as we take a look forward, DarkZero on the back foot. We have seen a reverse sweep in the past. It was several weeks ago as Shroud X pulled one off on our stream. Does Envy have any weaknesses that you can exploit?
Not particularly. No, I mean, they look to be a complete team in all senses of the word from everything we've seen so far. And look, if you were to ask me off the cuff what my evaluation of NA would be, I think while overall the teams have had great parity over the last month, I do think that you have kind of an S tier with Envy and 100 Thieves on the top. We saw that in the Shroud Gauntlet. Recent RFN results have supported that, both in not only the actual results, but also the eye test. Because again, you know, it may sound like playing defense, even though they've gone, frankly, whooped so far in the series, but DarkZero is a good team. They would have a good fight against most of North America, but Envy and 100 Thieves may just be a little out of reach right now based on the data we're seeing here. That said, I do think their scouting was a little bit off because I just don't know why you would ever bring Envy to this map, especially with the recent history they've had versus 100 Thieves.
So we take a look at some of the best moments. Smash showcasing his Bucky. I have to say, Chime on the Iron Man. One of the more impressive Skyflyers we have seen of us.
Yeah, I think Chime and Smash both like look pretty good. It's always just the issue, right? Of just like, okay, you can always look relatively individually okay, like solid on your role, but if your team is just getting ran over, it's gonna be hard to have the moments that you need. But I do think Chime obviously has looked pretty good. And I like the idea from DarkZero in general. Maybe there's some more options to potentially put Chime in like a carry position and try to hope to keep their front line alive a bit more. Maybe like even like a triple Vanguard maybe, but obviously it gets a little risky because you have to play into the Wolverine. But there's some signs of life for DarkZero. I do think they just need to ensure that they're living long enough to take some of these fights.
Here's one of the highlights from Chime. Chasing down, he was always going after this guy speedily in the back line on the Psylocke. How many times did you say it takes out another strategist? When you got no heals, you can't push the cart very far.
No, not at all. And I think, again, that's probably been the biggest strength of Envy so far in the series is their nearly superhuman power. Oh,
I mean,
God,
was that the peak? Was the peak with it was from Spawn, right? Yeah, that was definitely not a portal freeze that we've seen like teams like British Brew do. They just ran to Spawn and hit him with the freeze.
Boom. Hadouken.
Yeah, but overall, in this case, I just think that when you take a look at it, I think that you have gaps right now, particularly in the Vanguard play and the gaps in the Duelist play. And it's leading to scenarios where you're seeing DarkZero Vanguards drop early and you're seeing Speedily at times just get away with murder.
I'm enjoying it. Speedily, keep it up. Envy, let's speedrun it. Burning T'Challa is loading up right now as we're going to see what our players will ban and protect next. Chad, is there anything new you want to see? Is there a meta that you have pulled off or a new composition you've pulled out in matchmaking? Let us know. I'm kind of curious because honestly, this match is boring me, ZP. Is it rude to say? Because I felt like EU had some 3-0s, but they're a little closer.
We don't technically have to be professional because we're not, we're doing our own thing here. This is our product to a degree. And also, I think for DarkZero, sometimes you need some tough love. I think any team that you need to lose a bit before you win. And I think every champion of the arena started getting booed and tomatoes thrown at them, I would say. So before, that's how it always starts, right? So maybe the training arc montage occurs right after this, as we see the bands start getting rolling out. And I think for DarkZero, I kind of like their bands, honestly. I did like their bands previously and the Protecting the Magneto. So maybe just, I don't think there was a particularly great band setup for them, except maybe removing like Groot potentially. I don't think the Groot matchup has gone great for them.
I thought having the mag advantage would be enough in the previous game. Not so much. Luna Snow is going to be removed here by DarkZero. They don't want to deal with that. Speedily and friends, what do you remove from the game, ZP?
What do you remove from the game? I mean, in this case, you look at what Envy has been taking out. They don't want to play against Ultron. I think Envy, they're very good with the standard style play that they're at right now, and they're saying, nah, no Ultron. We're just not going to deal with that. It's a little bit too new. We don't want to deal with the newest flavor of often triple strategist. I think if you're Envy, also, you have no real reason to change anything up because you have been winning pretty handily with the style of bans here so far. So why take a risk?
Adam. Is it going to be some res comp?
That's actually kind of disastrous in the ban phase. Is that Magneto has been banned from Envy, or Envy rather banned it for DarkZero while they've already had the Protect. So I do look at that and I'm like, uh-oh, that's a little scary because also Luna Snow potentially might get banned as well, so you won't have the ability to hit the freezes. You won't have just a general support that comes out. You won't be able to support a flyer into it. And I'm seeing, okay, I mean that's pretty interesting. I haven't seen a lot of Punisher bans. I haven't seen a lot of Punisher bans, to be fair. That's kind of new.
Big pun. Who does Punisher hard counter right now? Because I feel like anytime I see him shooting at an Iron Man and Ultron,
oh, wait, there was one earlier.
In the sky, they're just healing through it.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of banning Punisher, I wonder how much of that is really based on Punisher and how much is based on, potential team-up ability and where we're at the moment, where you don't want some of them, potentially, run some of his more powerful options. It's hard to say. I feel like Punisher is always more team-up based, but the Ultron does finally get banned by Envy. And also, honestly, I'm looking at this here too. I do feel like DarkZero may have messed up giving up both Emma and Magneto. Like, protecting Loki is one thing, but protecting Loki and then not having a top tier Vanguard option that usually is getting played right now, that seems very risky to me.
Chat demands Ultron. They want Envy to be able to play it.
Well, it's not going to be happening today. I mean, technically, DarkZero could. I mean, it's
DarkZero could run it, right?
They could. I mean, they could run it. So it's a possibility. But with Luna Snow not being on the field, so you're not going to have like some flyers. So obviously, Ultron enough to kind of self-heal himself with some of the bonus health and be using his drones as well. So there are some options for them. I do look at this and I'm like, this is interesting.
Yeah.
You could make it work. There's a lot of high ground. There's a lot of like space you could use. I'm more so just like, well, like no Magneto. You play into the Wolverine again. It looks a little funky, a little scary.
ZP, as we get into Burning T'Challa, if DarkZero is going to have a player lead the way, who are you looking at?
Honestly, from what we've seen here so far, I'm looking more at the front line. I think that it's been a little bit tough here so far for Z-Cube and Cyber, particularly Z-Cube, who has been the main target for Envy. I almost feel like when you're playing Groot, if you're getting hard focused to the extent that Z-Cube is, you have to back it up a little bit more, play it a little bit more cautiously, stay alive longer into the fights. I think if the front line of DarkZero is able to stay alive a bit longer, it will bode far better for their odds of actually winning some of these fights before ultimates come to play.
All right, Bubwitz is saying the Punisher counter is for the Storm activation for Chime. They have Smash on the pun, Chime on the Storm. Does the comp work? Time to find out.
Well, that's finally getting a little bit of Ultron here in NA. Envy decide, yep, we want to see how this works to move over and into domination. Was pretty effective off in Europe, and we'll see how Cal looks in the Ultron.
Yes, we will, as right now, both squads just poking each other out. Cal playing the off angles currently. Speedily, gonna find one already. And even though you don't have that team up still, if you have the pocket that's possible from Ultron right now, you can still just be so aggressive here with the Iron Man, just putting a ton of damage. As DarkZero losing the fight, pretty much having to back up right away. And really, honestly, ZP, it wasn't much of a fight to begin with.
No. And I think you kind of nailed it when you talk about the ability of just the Ultron to let your Iron Man go super, super deep. And I mean, it's kind of what Speedily did. Speedily wasn't really afraid of their life at any point there, and is at times more frontline than the actual Vanguards.
Yeah, and especially now that you're getting this team up as well with the Ultron, so having this double flyer for Envy, they're just getting even more damage, right? They're getting more ability to just walk forward. As Chime gonna get caught yet again. And DarkZero struggling to make it out of the spawn doors again, ZP, which is something we've seen a lot of.
Envy hasn't used an ultimate yet. They're about to have everything available. All this devastation has come completely without ults. That is just a shellacking. You don't see this all that often, at least not to this frequency and degree.
Reminder, game 1 was a 100-0 first round.
You'd be correct. You'd be correct, and it's might happen here again, because I mean, sure, 6 ults versus 6 ults again. This upcoming fight, but Envy historically been pretty good. Is now Cyber walking on up, holds on to the Agamotto, trying to catch a couple here on the wall here for Envy potentially.
Peter M coming up here from Kaluj as Cal lays down the Ultron damage. Jabari gonna fall, speedily giving his life in turn. 5-on-5 right now as the ults come into play. Month right now, pulling out the invisible boundary. Narrow gonna drop their invisible boundary right on after. DarkZero right now, I mean, forget getting to the point of Ast. They just want the right to just be near the point at the moment, let alone captured. But with Narrow getting caught, DarkZero finally breaking the Envy chokehold and seriously threatening the recontest.
Now, I mean, they committed the God of Mischief there for Jibri as well, just because, like, okay, we're afraid, we don't know, let's just make sure we can get a cap. Gonna ensure the cleanup happens there, and finally, I think some really good Vanguard play from Cyber and VCube, just hits a really good Strengthening Prison, force out the ults, get some great damage post-fight, even with the nerfs to the damage, and Cyber, with the Agamotto, disrupts the Pulse Cannon. I mean, Speedily gonna have it here for this fight, right? But gives them a little bit extra breathing room. Now they have to worry about the combo. Strengthening Prison plus Pulse Cannon available for Envy. So for DarkZero, you really don't want to give him that space to just set this up. And ideally, you can just play kind of split, have your Vanguards tank this, Envy looking to go for the long rotation to the low ground, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's a longer rotation. I don't know how much you actually gain from the rotation. You have a little bit of a wider area of the stage from. Really, though, everything is going to run through Window here. Window's going to go forward, look for the very early Strangling Prison, and you're going to have the double flyer fall through coming in ult-wise as a result. Smash right now, trying to stop here from the side, going to get stymied a little bit by Invisible Woman Shield, but able to find Month cleanly off the side. Ends up with 2 as the Pulse Cannon comes out. Smash, fantastic angle to keep DarkZero in it.
And I think this is exactly what they needed for DarkZero, is they need to just do a little counter comping, right? Smash here on the Hela. This is really good. Even with Ultron with the pocket, it's hard to keep your Iron Man alive into a Hela. Hela just the ultimate anti-flyer. A lot of ults going to be available for DarkZero here as well. Envy now a little bit worrisome, right? Like, they do have 99, but with the ult bank, if they lose this fight, then they're in a last second recontest situation. They might commit some ults. This is essentially the last good fight that Envy's going to have.
Envy, though, swaps it up. They put Cal on the Hela instead. Cal goes, oh, you got Hela on the field? I'll do a little bit of Hela v Hela. It's kind of my game. And Smash goes, you sure you want to do that? Smash gets a counter pick on the Cal. Big. Kaluj gonna try and steal this here with the Meteor M. Meteor connection on the Chime. And even with the early Hela pick, this may be good. 3 gets stunned by the Eye of Agamotto coming in from Cyber. And yet Envy, still plenty of alive players here on the point to likely get the reflip. And it's gonna put us in overtime, 99-99.
Oh, and Smash could not have done more there too. I mean, what a good find there. Gets the pick, gets the team up with Loki to get Jibri back into the fight, and just wasn't able to hit the regeneration domain fast enough to keep Z-Cube alive. Maybe if Z-Cube stays up a little bit longer, there's a chance there, but much better round for DarkZero. They had some good counter comping to make sure that Envy didn't get everything they wanted. They forced Cal to make a swap. I think overall DarkZero looked a lot better on this comp.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say as a caveat is that I do wonder how comfortable Envy is right now on triple strategist, particularly the Ultron variety. Given the fact that they're going halfway to ban it, I feel like it's one of those things where Envy may be using this for a little bit of limit testing to go, okay, we haven't really done a lot with this comp. Let's see how it works out. and that's why they're taking it out here once more. You take a look heading into this next round, Cal back onto the Ultron. I don't think it's been Envy's strongest look, but I think it's something that Envy wants to have in their back pocket and be a threat as they look forward to Ignite.
3, 2.
Definitely, and I think Ultron is going to be a hero that kind of is meta-defining currently. There was a lot of people poo-pooing like, oh, he doesn't do that much damage, but like actually does a good amount of damage, and his drone really strong in general, honestly. Just having like, it's not quite as strong. I think his kit is like Luna, but kind of functions in a similar way in terms of being able to empower flyers at times, or flankers. So now Envy's keeping on this composition, and ZP, a pulse cannon, it's waiting, it's searching.
Also, if they're limit testing, they decide, actually, we're just going to stick on what we feel are good at. However, they just get crunched. Cube with a great strangling prison, the fall through just there for DarkZero. So Envy, again, caught off guard. Great initiation from DarkZero, gives them first control of the point.
And they hold on to the visible boundary plus that Omega Hurricane, so they have some options to force a strategist ult there for Envy, who really, I mean, because they went down so fast, they're still not going to have any strategist ult. So could commit a fast Omega Hurricane here from the high ground. All they need to really be worried about right now is speedily finding the pulse cannon. This Chime waiting behind, searching for it. DarkZero looking to hold really aggressively on the choke.
Omega Hurricane coming out here, looking for the Iron Man as Maximum Pulse comes out, tried to go for the Storm, and Chime actually going down right on after, so the Hurricane is quelled. Monk, though, dying in the middle of it does make things difficult. Losing a strategist that early is tough, and Smash just absolutely takes no hits from speedily inside, takes him on down. So really nice hold here so far from DarkZero.
And actually, Jibri going down here, unable to remove Nero on the backline, who put out so much damage, got so much value there to keep the Vanguards alive. And Smash, even with some of the hero plays there on the flank, Envy gets to stay in this fight now. They do hold on to the Strangling Prison. They have a Meteor M. They have some combos available.
Cyber down early. Kaluj.
No, don't hit it. Oh!
Again, the mid-air hits. It's a no-fly zone for Storm, and Kaluj got the Meteor M on deck. Envy finally getting the recontest here, but a very strong start here, I've asked, for DarkZero, where the change in comp has been healthy for them. The problem is that they're out of mulligans. Should they lose this round, that's it. They're gone.
They're dialed in now, surely. They're dialed in. I mean, they have the God of Mischief. They're going to have a Strangling Prison, Agamotto. So they have a lot of threats here to where the Envy strategists need to be watching here. Like, okay, can't overlay. Can even max value here. I like the swap here to the high ground to just kind of nullify that forward hold a bit from Envy. So DarkZero, they make it up here to the high ground. Looking to set up, and it's kind of just a staring match right now because both teams relatively equal. And the old banks look at the advantages they have.
Cyber walking forward, Eye of Agamotto, ready to go. Anytime you got a strange position this aggressively, you know ult is on the mind. But force back a little bit. Now lower HP, doesn't necessarily want to drop it. Meanwhile, Visible Boundary gonna be dropped. Cal, though, actually able to find the Storm with the God's Death. First pick off here the way of Envy. Cyber into the back. Eye Agamotto gonna be dropped. Stuns only 2. Window and Cal looking absolutely okay as Kaluj picks up the slack off into the back line. Now 50% from Envy. A mere 50% away from getting to 100 Thieves, where Kaluj and Delina can start talking about belts.
I will say I'm dropping a question mark there on the Eye of Agamotto a little late. Unfortunate to lose Chime so early here because Chime doesn't get to build the Mega Hurricane early. There is still the Strangling Prison combo available there. Envy use theirs. But now the problem is, okay, we don't have a strategist ult here, and we have to be worried about speedless and Mega Hurricane. You know, there's going to be a lot of pressure onto them. Just build this a little quickly. If they're going to fight at the choke, ideally Skier going to get it now, but doesn't have it just yet.
Speedily in Omega Hurricane, DarkZero, they need to weather the storm.
Oh, last second.
Is dropped, and Smash is able to find Monk. DarkZero, not out of it here just yet. Smash goes to this guy, Goddess of Death, looking for bolt. Cyber able to find Kaluj in the meanwhile. And now Hella using the Crow, gets away. Chime able to punch speedily in turn. DarkZero, not done yet.
And what a good find there from Skier. Just gets in the last second there. 1 second difference, and maybe 2 players for DarkZero go down, maybe even 3. So Skier gets the invisible boundary, brings it back to that fight. They're going to have the Strangling Prison. They're going to have the Omega Hurricane. The bank looking very good here. And if they can just set up a fight pretty early, they can nullify a lot of the value early from the God of Mischief. Strangling Prison for Windows. Envy. They need to make it in. Need to get the touch. They have a bit of time here. Maybe going to clear the high ground. Yeah, it looks like they're going to try to clear this high ground early.
Remember, this is a fight DarkZero must win. They lose this fight, it is over. They are gone. Envy, meanwhile, want to go in the fight. Hard Thieves He got Speedily on the torch, gets taken down by Smash. Smash, though, gives us life in turn. Both teams down to Duelist. Here comes Chime, Omega Hurricane. Looking to clean it up, looking good for DarkZero here so far, and ends up with 2 by the very end. DarkZero finding the rhythm here in overtime and not falling to Envy here just yet.
I think it's what's really impressive for DarkZero is not just A, they look a lot better, but B, Smash is keeping up with Cal and the Hella. And we've talked about it historically, time and time again. Shroud Gauntlet, Fight Night, MRC, MRI, probably into Ignite. Cal's Hella has been exceptionally good for this team, right? It has been a top of North America, and potentially just one of the best in the world. And so with Smash being able to go toe-to-toe with Cal, I mean, look at the final hits, 14. Smash looking incredibly good here on the Hella pick.
I mean, from what I'm seeing so far, I get that the meta sometimes dictates other things, but Smash has been so good on the Hella that I don't know why you wouldn't try to force more Hella comps if you're DarkZero. It has been by far their strongest look all day long, but they brought it out at the very end. It was kind of the same energy of Master, let me go out just this one time. DarkZero finding hidden power.
Let me unsheath my blade, please.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And also I think what's so a very remarkable turnaround too is that Cyber and Z-Cube actually look like they're able to do things now, right? Like before the previous 2 maps, they were just gonna get flattened over and over and over again. And now we're seeing actual, impact from this Vanguard line here is, wait a minute, Cyber looking to do a strategic drop into the back line.
Here we go. We'll see if this catches Envy off guard. DarkZero taking the initiative here from the back. Cyber leading the way here with Z-Cube. Chime, though, getting very, very low at the same time, but still able to find Cal off on the back. First pick off the way of DarkZero. Envy down 1. DarkZero looking to take more of the advantage. Keep an eye on Smash here, who has been such a threat here so far. And you talk about the Vanguards living longer for DarkZero. It helps when the enemy duelists are worried for their life because of this Hella.
100% is okay. Pulse, use Z-Cube down. They did force the boundary of both squads, but with Cyber and Z-Cube down, no Vanguards for DarkZero. This should just be the end. I mean, they're just going to commit the Strangling Prison as well from Envy just to clean it up. And that's going to be the first fight. But, I mean, a kind of expensive first fight, considering they had to commit 3 ults for that win.
I think the only way it would have been a little bit better for DarkZero is if they didn't use the boundary. Boundaries came up at the same time as the pulse was going off. But other than that, as you say, at least it was an expensive fight win here for Envy. So DarkZero off a little bit in the back foot, but we'll see if they can recover the way they did last round.
See Cal on the flank. Gotta find it. There's one right off the bat, and Cal still just sitting here with the Guardian Shield from Nero, being a menace into the backline. Now they do manage to get a return pick.
I mean, speedily down. This is winnable. Cal, though, still a lot of space here in the backline. Meanwhile, Omega Hurricane in from Chime. Envy able to stand here so far, dropping the invisible boundary to stay alive. Window punishing Vanguard counterpart. Smash coming back on in, but Chime punishing Kaluj. Kaluj is saying fear Magneto, and there's nothing to fear at all. Just Chime. As DarkZero getting the better of this fight, starting to grid it on out. Envy gonna get to about 50% before the recap comes in.
Love watching that fight as Cal's just on the side quest. Just charting through the back line, waiting while everyone to do stuff. As Chime gonna find another one, and Chime here on the Storm. Getting a lot of value currently. And I mean, really good read too, knowing that AoE not gonna be absorbed by the Meteor M. Takes down Kaluj. So DarkZero controls the point here. Have the Agamotto potentially put some early pressure, and with no shred result just yet for Envy, I mean, this could be a really good engaged potential for DarkZero to just fight the chokes, deny Envy the chance to set up Speedily or Cal on a flank. As Envy waltz on in, trying to make some pressure to the point.
They just go, oh, Agamotto gonna interrupt the maximum pulse. However, still even 1-1. Chime out of the fight. Speedily gonna try and build back up. Only lost 50% of the meter. Cal under pressure, nearly falling. Window, though, can't sustain, taken on down. As Smash gonna go to the air. Goddess of Death, the Goddess of Death here, but one Goddess of Death has backup and the other does not. Smash gonna win that and getting a little bit more into the backline, nearly gets one more pick. DarkZero, they even the score, 54-50.
And a great 4 physics as well from Nero. I mean, tries to deny as much value as possible, but just couldn't stop all the value from the Eye of Agamotto. Pulse Cannon is gonna be available because they did get that 50% refund there from the interrupt. So DarkZero gonna have to worry about that here, but I mean, really just gonna try to set up another Omega Hurricane, maybe even a Strangling Prison for DarkZero, knowing the strategy results aren't up just yet for Envy.
Omega Hurricane gonna be first to come over and in. Strangling Prison held for now. Maximum pulse out, does not hit the storm, but does force Chime to run away. Window still gonna finish it off. DarkZero down 1. Jibbery gonna drop the invisible boundary. DarkZero still trying to turn this one around. They drop the strangling prison. The fall through.
Well, who's it on?
Down speedily.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know who that was even on. I didn't quite see it go up, but it doesn't really matter. They keep pushing forward, but Envy still in this fight, ZP.
Yeah, and the visible boundary gonna be fading here for DarkZero soon. They're running out of options, but now maybe you look to Cyber. Cyber, can you be the hero? And absolutely not. The fall through from Envy gonna clean up DarkZero, but Avast, they still get to 99%. They're one fight away from extending the series and getting to a map 4.
I mean, the real problem there is that ZQ committed a strangling prison without having, there wasn't anything on Envy they had to do to just counter that. I mean, they didn't have to commit any strategy results. Nero, invisible boundary, month, close to a god of mischief. This is a very, very hard fight for DarkZero now because their bank isn't strong. They didn't get enough value out of the strangling prison for Z-Cube. Still, they have a little bit of time. They can set a poke, maybe. Smash comes through big, gets an early pick. And Cyber looking for the Agamotto here, ZP.
Yeah, I think all eyes got to be on Cyber if Cyber can find it. This is not the easiest map to get tons of value off a big guy of Agamotto, but maybe if Envy clump up just a little bit more, Cyber looking for the opportunity. As Zed says, I'm just gonna fight Hella a little bit, but while this is going on, your Strange is separated. You lose Z-Cube, who just gets focus fired. You're down to one Vanguard. DarkZero now against the wall. Envy close to getting their matchup once more. The 100 Thieves, a fight DarkZero must win, and they're down 2 already. It's not much of a fight. The pulse can coming into the back, and DarkZero falls apart here at the end. Overtime in progress, and Envy about to get their rematch with the 100 Thieves, and they do.
And DarkZero, I mean, making some extremely good pivots, but just a little too late. When you only have one map of cushion, it's just hard to bring that back. And I mean, Envy, they're showing again why this team has won so much recently, why they've looked so good recently. There's always pick potential. There's always threats. The flexibility is through the roof. But I mean, what started as a, oh, DarkZero, you might have to go back to the G leagues a bit, go play in the minor leagues a bit longer. I'm like, okay, there's a chance for DarkZero moving forward here to be a heavy hitter with the right compositions, with the right bands.
Good finish to round 2. Couldn't finish round 3. And game 3 will seal the deal for an Envy match victory. They'll move on to play 100 Thieves. But first, take a look at the highlights and some of the numbers. Looking at some of the scores from that previous game, who are your standout players, ZP? Because I think we're all going to pick the same MVP, but who deserves love for the warm-up match from Team Envious?
Okay, for Team, we'll start with Envy. I was gonna give some props to DarkZero, but look,
okay.
For DarkZero, I gotta say, Smash, play more Hella. Just play a little bit more Hella. Like, yell at your team, get it done. DarkZero, we saw a little bit of what they're really good at the end, but the problem is that Envy is multi-talented. They can just adapt to what you're doing, and again, you kind of got to look to players like Cal, who is able to eventually find their footing, fight Smash bit for bit, but especially the Vanguard line of Envy, between Envy and Kaluj, just continually making opportunities, even when DarkZero was starting to find their stride.
Avast, what did you enjoy most from the Envy or DarkZero warm-up?
I think overall getting to see a bit of Ultron, which is always nice. Love to see the new hero a bit. Honestly, even though it's old news, Hella duels still go crazy. You love watching Hella duels. I mean, they're still some of the most satisfying parts of Marvel Rivals. I think watching that hero, how they duel out, how they get the picks. And I think when you have an invisible woman as strong as Nero on your squad to just level up Cal when they go for the big flanks, it's kind of hard not to see the impact that makes. And I do think for DarkZero, there was that glimmer of hope from Smash, that glimmer of hope of like, okay, they have some heavy hitting. Chime also on the Storm, I think, did look pretty good. It's really just holistically for that team, making sure they're on the right picks, because earlier their just Vanguard line was just getting rolled over, right? So I do think there's some room to grow for them, but the Hella duels, always a highlight.
I enjoyed the Hella duels always. It's time to reveal our MVP. Did Cal steal this one? Let's take a look. The honors go to Speedily. Of course, you saw the incredible Psylocke play in game number 1, constantly backstabbing in game number 2, and then in game 3, Tony Stark comes out. Let's take a look at the Iron Man. And I even forgot about some of the early plays. This was game number 1 where he went 19-0. Did not die once, ZP.
Yeah, I mean, Speedily looked absolutely beastly on the Storm. And again, you think about how these fights ended up panning out. Envy was just getting kills in the neutral. Long before ultimates even came into play, they would just, oh, we've taken down 2 limbs. Let's get a few more on top of it, and a few more, and we don't have to spend any ults. And by the way, we are at your spawn door. And that doesn't happen without a duelist like Speedily playing out of their mind for that round. It is quite literally the only way it can happen. So yeah, speedily, arguably, of all the pickups Envy has done in the last 2 months, probably the most important.
Huge pickup, paying dividends so far, as Envy is fighting for another chance at 100 Thieves. That match is coming up in just a few moments. Out of the three that you saw the Storm, you saw the Iron Man, you saw the Psylocke quite a bit. What was your favorite, Mr. Vast?
For speedily, I mean, personally, I really like his Iron Man. I mean, I think overall, like, I think his Iron Man is actually very impactful with the way they play it. They know sure their tempo is really good. So I go for the Iron Man. I go for the Iron Man, especially if you get the Ultron. If you're able to get the Ultron team up too, to get some of that extra value as well for your Ultron player, I think it's really nice. With Iron Man being kind of like there to support. So I hope to see more of it. I think flyers in general are really, really fun. I think there can't go wrong with Speedily on essentially any flyer right now. Speedily just has that wealth of just flex knowledge, I think, in general.
I can't wait to find out, does Terra have the same ability to take to the sky? He's a menace on the ground. He plays for 100 Thieves, and that is our next battle. ZP, this is a big one for those that are new to Rivals Fight Night. We're live on my TikTok this evening. What should they know about the upcoming final fight of the night?
Well, Envy versus 100 Thieves is arguably the #1 and #2 versus each other in North America. You can make arguments for both, but I think it's a little bit personal for 100 Thieves. They have lost the last 2 times they've played against Envy, and they certainly do not want to give up the crown here tonight. So I'm curious to see what 100 Thieves has cooking, because if you're 100 Thieves, they want a little bit of revenge.
It's been 3 3-0s. About time for a game 5. We're going to a break. When we come back, it is that final battle. Get your claws sharpened. We'll be back with Wolverine and friends after this.